Sparkling, sparkling clean. I'm holding my grandson here. It's so sunny, so I'm able to take him out. You can see the background. What I told you is that I always leave the pit latrine open because the sunshine comes directly so that it can hit on it. And it's going to be a beautiful day. And then my visitor has cleaned the compound. You see, I told you that I don't usually do that. I just do it once in a while for cleaning the leaves. But for people who have grown up country, it's for them. It's routine that the grounds, the compound must be cleaned up every morning. The tomato tree plant is doing so very well. So is the aloe vera. Then this is the pomegranate. It's doing very well. Last time I think I said it was a plum. It's not. This sugarcane, I'm going to transfer a bit of it onto the outer compound. You can see the vegetables are starting to rise up. Yeah, the tomatoes very visibly, the spinach very visibly, and even the other vegetables. You can see they are now coming up. The leaves are showing above the mulching. Yeah, because before I had to pull up the leaves to hold them up. But now, on their own, they are able to come out. Up and actually stand up. The chili we transferred, but you see I transferred it when it's very big, so it's going to take a few days, but it will also sprout up. So this is the collection that I have today for mulching, which I'll be using in a bit. A wildflower, but I let it thrive here because I love flowers so much. And you can hear the birds are already singing, so they're already giving us company early in the morning, courtesy of all the flowers that we have here, where they come to suck the nectar and to pick up the seeds of the grass. This is the nectar that brings the birds here from this plant. They come and suck at the nectar in the flowers. And they just bloom for a few days, then they fall gently onto the ground. And then these trees in here, they forage. I don't know what they forage for, but they're always foraging within the branches, I think for insects and stuff. The sun has hidden again a bit, but oh goodness, and then the temperature has suddenly dropped and there are dark clouds. Oh goodness, there might still it might rain. This is my morning face. I'm not always in makeup, and no, I haven't washed my face, so don't crucify me. Yeah, it's allowed, isn't it? Yeah, this is also another tree that brings in the birds, the raspberries, and we have to have a competition of eating them because the birds are always on them, and I also want them. So once in a while I'll get a ripe one, but usually the birds get to them first. And the goodness is that it has very long branches, so sometimes the birds will get to the ones on the top branches, and then I'll have the ones on the bottom branches. Here they are. They're just in bits, and the birds are already aiming for them. Oh my, those clouds look so threatening. Ah, but I'm not complaining. For me, it's such a benefit. If it rains, that means my plants are watered naturally and they are watered for longer. So for me, it's always a plus. Yeah, that's my grandson just reveling in being outside. But now we have to go in because that temperature has dropped very, very sharply. Breakfast is served. Baby has gone to sleep for the morning session, and I'm busy watching my channel. I normally make sure that I watch just to correct myself based on what I see from the videos I've shot, improve how I place the phone, how I take the shots, and how else to improve, whether to add music or something else. But I'm so happy. I'm so happy that these trees are planted. You don't know how happy I am. You know, when we first came here, none of these houses was built. We now have 1, 2, 3, ourselves and the fourth person. None of these 4 lots of houses had anything. And across the road, there was nothing. And then to my behind, across the road to my behind is where there was just one house. The rest of the fields were all empty. I used to walk here from about a kilometer away. And we used to come here with my son. We were uprooting the sisal that had been used for demarcation. Most of Embakasi ranching, all of Embakasi ranching, I think it's a practice in Kenya. They use sisal for demarcation. So we uprooted the sisal. It was bush everywhere. We uprooted the bushes that we didn't want to be here. We came planting. I told you how I used to carry this, to drag this, what is it called? Karialia. Because you just cut off a branch, you just get a cutting and insert it into the ground and it grows. And that's how we started fencing this lot. We had already fenced another 2 plots where we were living, also family lots. So we were used to this, but this was more difficult because it was far. There were no residences around. You had to carry your own water. You had to carry your own food. There were not even kiosks, food kiosks or anything. So when I tell you that I'm so proud of the progress I'm making, it's because the story goes way much further back. We've endured a lot. It's been a long journey reaching to get here. And now these are fruits of hard work and labor. And so, yeah, I'm proud. I'm proud of my work. And I know when it starts showing more fruit, it's going to be so enjoyable. Yes, so let me just walk around with him, enjoy the sun a bit before we go in and keep reminiscing about how it was when we first came here. Yes, when I walk in right now, it's looking all bare, but my dream is that very soon, in the very near future, you'll be walking in here and you'll be met by an array of greenness. Some cassava, some bananas, some flowers, some trees. The trees will most likely be symmetrically planted because they're dividers, they're land share dividers. But the bananas, the cassava might be too, because you can see I'm growing it in rows. I'm trying my best to grow it in rows, so that when we are now later on growing maize or beans or anything else, then we are planting it in between. That's we normally cultivate in rows, but I'll also start green culture. So I'm going to plant more trees in between the crops. Yeah, you see these ones, they're picking up nicely. I'm hoping they're not going to dry anytime soon. With the constant watering, they'll be okay. Yeah. And what I did is that every time there's a bit of rain, I cut the taller stalks like this, and then I root them. I put them into the ground again, because it's just the stalks that you need to put in the ground. And for some people, they prefer to bury the stalk underground. For me, I put them slanting in the ground with a bit of protrusion. So today I'd like to encourage anybody who is out there. Hold on a minute. I'd like to encourage you, if you've been feeling defeated but you have a piece of land somewhere and you've not developed it, do not wait to have money. Money is never enough. Wow, the sun is out so hard, but this kind of heat, it's a very harsh instant heat that the temperature has spiked again to very hot. So I'm very sure that it's going to rain. Money is never enough for you to make a development. What is the most important thing is to do something small. And from my experience so far in living in this place, what I've seen is that if you have a piece of land in Kenya and you'd like to develop it, no matter how remote it is, the best thing is to put up a small temporary house, either mabati or mud. Because first of all, that gives you a claim of ownership. Secondly, it prevents squatters from going there. And also, if you get someone to stay there so that they don't become a squatter on your piece of land, make sure you change whoever person it is. Many cases we had when we first came here that I witnessed my neighbors going through. And I give thanks that for my family, we did not encounter all this. My parents and my grandparents had invested heavily in land here. So we have several lots here, and that people had done that mistake, had allowed someone to come and occupy their land while they were away, to retain ownership and to put off people coming to claim in their absence. But later on, some of these people just turned around on them and said that and claimed ownership on these pieces of land, irrespective of the fact that they did not have the supporting paperwork. But when someone is unscrupulous, somebody is crooked, somebody is just just a bad person, evil, conniving, then they were able to infiltrate the powers that be within the land buying estate, and very many times they had their ways, their crooked ways. They got counsel that was able to advise them so that they were able to claim ownership on the land that were not theirs. So it's very imperative to do that. But you see, if you take your due diligence, and that's why I encourage so many people. I'll not talk about many parts of Kenya, but I know in Ukambani, where I come from, in Machakos area, Makueni, Kangundo, people have large tracts of land. People are wealthy with land, but you find them in the city, living in deplorable conditions, not living comfortable lives. And they are making money. They are making enough money to plant trees every season, even if it is only 20 trees or 10. But they don't do that. And my biggest cry especially is to men, because women are investing very heavily in Kenya and they are doing progressive things. But you men, I literally find it disgusting, to say the least, that so many men have such big tracts of land. Again, because in Kenya we have the hierarchy system which favors the male child so much. So there are those from the old school, parents and grandparents, who still, despite the law being, equal, having equal basis of inheritance to both girl child and boy child, there are those families where the only land can only be bequeathed to the boys, and unless you go to court for it afterwards, as a woman or as a girl, it will not be hard, especially if you're a widow. Some cultures are worse than others. But I'm speaking for Ukambani, where people have a lot of men in the city. They have large tracts of land, but they're doing nothing. The kind of money you're drinking, the kind of money you're spending, the lifestyle you're leading. If you'd be wise, because those who are wise, I see people who've invested in cassava, young men, people who've invested in trees, who are doing farming. You do not have to leave up country to develop your piece of land, and you don't have to sell. Selling is not always the option, but go and do something visible. Go and plant some trees, go and plant some fruit trees. Even the fruit trees will be something. Demarcate the piece of land, even if you cannot do it formally with surveyors and everything. Demarcate the section that the elders will show you. Actually, to translate, that means your land reaches here, your border is here. If you ask the elders, they'll always know, because representation of land at the local level involves the local elders and then the administration. But if you just use those people and they have a rough idea, why don't you plant trees in the estimated areas which are the corners, which are the boundary of your land? In later years, when you need to do further development, longer term development, the infrastructural development, then you can do the actual demarcation. But for right now, go and do something. I really pity. It's one of the reasons, I'm very sorry to say, why a lot of girls are, they find it so difficult getting into relationships, because you meet somebody who has got so much potential, and when they start telling you what they own, when they have, and then you look at their lifestyle, we've gone past those days when the person would then take you to live up country and they live in the city and you develop their piece of land, and you're like, I'm meeting you in my 30s, in my 40s. You're talking about having all this piece of land. You've done nothing on it despite being capable. What big thing are you going to do when I'm in your life? It's something to really consider. It's something that gives me so much pain. Really, really, really. There's a lot of hopelessness going on, and it is because of poor choices by Kenyan men. I'm not attacking men. This was not a vlog about men. But when I'm passionate about something, it triggers my emotion. It's just a very big waste that is going on. But again, I was just talking about land. we came here, when we came here, for me it was a last resort because finances were hard. I had also made some bad choices in life. I mean, it's a fact, but how lucky was I that there was a piece of land waiting for me which I had not bought, which was bequeathed to me as an inheritance. And I must say that I think, if I'm not wrong, but I greatly believe that the majority of people in Ruai have inherited their lands from relatives. But how blessed are you when you then inherit a piece of land? Work on it. What excuse do you have not to work on it? And why are you living a lifestyle where you're spending so much money paying out rent to somebody else? Because you're feeling, I might lower my standards, I might have to go through so much hardship, changing to a less better place, less conveniences. No, 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 no. Look on the longer term. Look at the bigger benefit to the more of you in the family, to your small family. The bigger benefit. And it's not just a cost saving, it's a health saving. It's also a teaching of the younger ones in the family that sometimes you have to rough the ride in order to benefit in the longer run. So that's just my take on this. The sun is very hot, and again, as I keep on saying, I think that kind of heat is portending rain. Of course, the sunshine is so good. I had to take the baby back in as we were having lunch, and he's in a very playful mood, but that sun is too hot, but we need it so much. Since like I had also planted some sweet potato cuttings around the cultivated cassava. So I need that to grow. Anyway, thank you so much for staying on my channel. For those of you who are here, I told you that I may not have very interesting things happening in my life, but the little that we are doing, I'm going to be sharing with you. And you remember I also told you I'm also walking on the path of looking for a life mate, a life partner, and I'll see how that goes. But I'm praying to God, and I'm praying for a manifestation of the good. And while the good is awaiting for me somewhere, or is preparing, or whatever God has in plan, because I'm trusting and believing that it shall happen, I'm going to go on with my life and do the best that I can within it, so that God willing, if that time comes and I meet the person, it's not a situation of, sometimes relationships break early on, and people don't know this because the person, you're talking to, and they're just looking at you and they're like, you've just been wasting your life, not doing a lot of anything. Yes, they say love is blind, but it's not that blind. Sometimes it is. And then it enriches your relationship if you have so much to share, and if you have so much to carry on in the early stages of the relationship, of what you've been doing and what they've been doing. But if you've just been, you had just sat down waiting for somebody to pop into your life, you are lying in bed or sitting in the sitting room and thinking, yeah, I hope they'll knock on the door. Yeah, they'll knock, and then they'll be like, this is a boring area to be in, and I think I better move in. It's just kidding about it, but it's important to be busy. So I'm going to go in a few hours, because I can't do the watering when it's so hot. In a few hours, probably by 6 or 6:30, I'm going to get out again. Today we didn't have a lot of washing, but the seedlings need watering every evening as much as is possible. So I'm going to be doing the watering later on so that they don't wilt, especially if the sun has risen to that temperature. Even if it's for a few hours, then it's hitting the ground much harder, and because it's hitting on a large scale, it's drying the soil around the seedlings much faster. So if I water them in the evening, they have time to soak in slowly and then wallow in the coolness of the ground. I mean, plants don't just grow because they're receiving water. They also grow when there's a good enough temperature around them, which I believe usually at night is when they really do a lot of intake of water, when it's not so hot. But it's so much better if the ground around them is cooler. That's what I think. So I'm going to do that. The mulching, the sweeping that was done today has not produced a lot of leaves, but what little has been produced, I'll also be mulching with that. Keep it here in the channel. Please subscribe. Please like. I'll appreciate if we can grow to 100. That's my goal right now. A little step, just one step at a go. We are at 31 subscribers. Please like, share, comment, make a comment. If you know me from somewhere, if we met before, whether it was primary school, if we knew one another in the estate, one of the estates, many estates or places I've lived in Kenya, Uganda, Eldoret, Kisumu, Machakos I've not lived, wherever. If we knew me from somewhere and you stumble upon my channel, please say hello. Just give it a shout out. I think I have my mobile phone and I have my email address. I have my TikTok account. You can touch base anywhere and I'll promptly get in touch, because I'd love so much to rekindle old friendships if we have met again through my channel. Be blessed. Have a nice evening or a nice morning or a nice afternoon wherever you are in the world, or a nice night. Be careful to do due diligence when buying land. Also to take care of any piece of land that you have as much as is possible. Invest in it. Make sure you reconnect with it often. And most of all, love yourself. Take care of yourself. Invest in yourself. Invest in your happiness and in your good mental health. Bye for now.